Please summarize your law enforcement career and then tell us why you decided to run for president of FPCA.
Okay. I began my law enforcement career in 1973 in New York City as a housing police officer. And I moved to Florida in 1975 and joined the Coral Springs Police Department later on, and served there for almost 30 years, my last 15 years as chief of police. Upon retirement, I joined the sheriff's office in Collier County, and I worked there for a little more than 10 years. And now I am completely retired. Association. Okay. The reason I got involved in the Florida Police Chiefs Association was, at the time, the leadership of the association were a group of purely dedicated people who were trying to make a difference in law enforcement in the state of Florida. I got involved with them and hoped that I could impact what was happening with law enforcement in the state of Florida and have some positive effect. Probably have to do that again, but
Let's start over,
Yeah.
okay? Let's start over. All right, again, to summarize law enforcement career and then why you decide to run. Okay, so all right, ready? Please summarize your law enforcement career and then tell us why you decided to run for president of FPCA.
Okay, and I know we're starting again, but I'm just going to start with why I wanted to run for president. I can
Okay.
get that other stuff, don't you think?
Okay, yeah, we can splice it.
Yeah, you can figure that out. At the time when I was police chief in the state of Florida, upon joining the association, I learned that upon joining the Florida Police Chiefs Association, I learned that there were many strong quality leaders who were trying to make a difference in law enforcement in the state of Florida. I became more involved with them, learning from them, and decided that, I'm thinking too much. Okay. I joined the Florida Police Chiefs Association in hopes of making a difference in the law enforcement community here in the state of Florida. I met some great law enforcement leaders who inspired me to get involved and to help direct the future of law enforcement in the state of Florida.
What were some of the most significant issues you faced as president of FPCA?
As it came up through the chairs of the FPCA, as it came up through the chairs of the FPCA, this was a time when terrorism became a big issue. 9/11 occurred when I was vice president, the first vice president, and upon assuming my 9/11 occurred when I was first vice president, and upon taking over the presidency, we got involved with the state of Florida and the governor to put together the Domestic Security Task Force and Advisory Board. And the FPCA became one of the founding members of that board. The next question is going to be the other things, or you want me to talk more about that?
It's up to you.
The challenges that were facing law enforcement at the time, I think terrorism was enough. That's enough of the challenges that were facing us at that time. And then I'll just talk about what the things that we accomplished during that time.
Yeah, the third one is, what are the major law enforcement issues both in Florida and the United States during your years on the board and president of FPCA?
Obviously, during my tenure as the president of the FPCA, terrorism was at the forefront in America. We were trying to figure out how we could prevent terrorism on our soil, what we could do for law enforcement officers, and how we could get all the law enforcement community to work together to fight terrorism. That's probably it. I don't know what else was going on during that time period. I can't even think back that far.
Okay.
But let's talk about, can we talk about the things that we accomplished during my tenure, or?
Yes, but that would be more the significant issues you faced and then how you did it. Tell you what, let's just start over. I got plenty of time.
Yeah,
Okay,
good.
let's do the first one. again,
Okay,
all
we'll
right?
start again.
Now that we, all right.
Okay. Now that we have a dry run.
Okay. Please summarize your law enforcement career and then tell us why you decided to run for president of FPCA.
I began my law enforcement career in New York City in 1973 as a New York City housing police officer. I later moved to Florida, joined the Coral Springs Police Department, where I went up through the ranks and became the police chief. I served my last 15 years with the Coral Springs Police Department as chief of police and retired in 2005. In 2005, I joined the Collier County Sheriff's Office in Naples, Florida, and I served in the administration there for approximately 10.5 years. I joined the FPCA because I wanted to make a difference in law enforcement in the state of Florida. When I joined the FPCA, I met many quality leaders who were not only friends but great advisors, helped me in my career, helped me see where law enforcement was headed, and helped me make some decisions on where law enforcement should be going. I decided to run for president so that I could have even more impact on the future of law enforcement in the state of Florida. We were working hard with the legislature. We were trying to become a presence in the state of Florida. And that's probably enough. Did I get into that too much? Down the weeds. Good.
Okay.
Is that tape running?
Yes. What were some of the most significant issues you faced as president of FPCA?
As president of FPCA, a couple of the things that were foremost in our thoughts were the training of law enforcement executives in the state of Florida. The past administration of the FPCA had begun working on those issues and developing better and better training. And I wanted to continue that effort. We also wanted to provide direction for the FPCA in the future, create a strategic plan so that we knew where we were headed and everyone knew where we were headed and what we were trying to accomplish. We worked on bettering our relationships. Our relationship with the state legislature was pretty slim at that time. And the previous leaders had worked on it. We were starting to build our presence in Tallahassee. And we began to work on that even further, or we continued to work on that further.
What were the major law enforcement issues both in Florida and the United States during the years on the board and as president of FPCA?
The biggest challenges to law enforcement during our tenure was the threat of terrorism. 9/11 occurred during the time I was first vice president, and that obviously carried over into my presidency. We worked with the governor's office to create the Florida Domestic Security Advisory Council and the Florida, what was it called? It wasn't called that. We worked with the governors of Florida Domestic Security Task Force. I got it. We worked with the governor's office to develop the Florida Domestic Security Task Force, which turned out to be the advisory board for the state of Florida and the direction we would take in addressing Tourette, which became the advisory board for law enforcement in the state of Florida. No, it wasn't only for law enforcement. Which became the advisory board for the state of Florida in its joint effort in addressing terrorism. Still, I wish I had your gift of gab. Bill, answer these questions for me.
Let me ask that one again.
Okay.
What were the major law enforcement issues both in Florida and the United States during your years on the board as president of FPCA?
9/11 occurred during my tenure as first vice president, which obviously carried on into my presidency. Terrorism was the biggest threat that our country faced at the time, and it was a major concern for the state of Florida. With the governor's direction, we became the founding members, one of the founding. At the governor's request, At the governor's request, the Florida Police Chiefs Association became one of the founding members of the Florida Domestic Security Task Force. This task force served in an advisory capacity for all public safety throughout the state of Florida. I'm giving you a lot to work with. If you can cut words, it's not cut. I'll try not to move so it always looks the same.
What message would you give to future law enforcement leaders?
To future law enforcement leaders, we're in very challenging times. The most important advice that I can give you is to keep your moral compass directed where it should be. Do things for the right reason. Lead with integrity. I had a good little spiel while I was out there. Let me just think about it for a second. I'll just throw this in. Don't cut. Go ahead.
Let me go one more time. Okay, again, no, remember, everything's on the line, so it was good. Just because you just had to come to a point. Okay.
Yeah, I got to come to a point and
Yeah.
conclude. I know that.
What message would you give to future law enforcement leaders?
These are very, very challenging times for law enforcement. The best advice I can give is to keep your moral compass pointed in the right direction. Do the right things for the right reason. Lead your law enforcement officers. Don't stand by. When issues arise, speak to those issues, address them head on, and be forceful in your beliefs and your point that law enforcement officers, that's a little bit too flowery. I almost got it, Bill, I'm getting there. Cut it, cut.
All right, one more time. Remember, just don't say anything. I could have cut it there, but it's okay. All right, all right.
Okay.
What message would you give to future law enforcement leaders?
These are very challenging times for law enforcement. The best advice I can give is to keep your moral compass pointed in the right direction. Do the right things for the right reason. The right decisions are not always the easiest decision. They're very challenging. Be strong, provide strong leadership, and provide direction for your people. Everyone will be looking toward you in trying times. Stand up, show them what a law enforcement leader